Natalie Papier, and this is my handmade home in Charlotte, North Carolina. I love meeting artists, I like connecting with artists, I like helping artists in return. I collect a lot of art. I don't ever remember a time when art wasn't my biggest love and passion and influence. My dad's an artist and he's a carpenter, and he renovated the home that we lived in, which was a big Victorian house. And it was so fun to see this mix between him as an artist and how he took that love of art into the home. We moved into our house in Oak Park, and my daughter at the time was 1, my son was 4. This is big, grand Victorian. I think we felt like, oh gosh, we're adults now. We have to like do adult things. I had all the interior walls painted some type of agreeable gray. After a few months, just like, agreeable gray doesn't agree with us. Like, we are not those people. And it just kind of set my course into what is now my career. You're starting out as a young family and we were a little housebroke. We bought the big Victorian and then didn't have the furniture to fill it. So I started experimenting a lot with thrifting and paint. Paint became my best friend. Little by little, I'd take a room at a time. I would find a piece of art and that would inspire color palettes or pattern mixing. And I got really excited about it. And I thought, why not? Why can't we do this? And once you start playing with things that really feel true to you, I think that's when your house can really sing. I started an Instagram for my new business, Home Ec, which initially started as pop-up shops. And I got a lot of people asking me for help, and it spiraled. I do art-forward design, and that's about being influenced by the art itself. And using a piece that you already have and love is inspiration for the whole room. So the art becomes a focal point, but the whole room is harmonious because you're pulling the palette, the scale, something out from it that highlights the piece. So we've been here in Charlotte for 2.5 years. This house felt grand right when you walk in. It's got all this intricate molding and the fireplaces and big windows. That to me just felt like a canvas. Right when you walk in the front door, you come into our entryway, which is kind of a funky space because it's long and narrow, and it's hard to know what kind of furniture to put into an entryway. So I put a lot of different things in here. This is a piano by Frankie Zombie, who I met here in Charlotte. He's just such a cool guy, and I love having a piece of furniture that is art in and of itself. These huge walls with the molding were perfect spots for some large-scale pieces of art, which frames the entryway right when you come in. I have been really obsessing over Chez Dog design for a while. They do very cool lighting that are all made out of paper mache. And this piece in particular, being white amongst this blue color, it just pops. And I like the texture of it. And then coming in through here, we call this area the sunrise room. This piece of art over the fireplace is by this artist, Peter Keel. I was so into these warm pinks and terracotta colors. It's got some of the blues and teals of my vintage couch. My chair is in this rose tone. It literally is the piece in the space that the whole color palette streams from. It was kind of chaos when we first moved in, and I bought this vintage birdcage stand, and originally I was going to hang a plant from it. My son just took this and popped it on here, and I wish I could take credit for this because I thought that is the coolest way to like showcase a disco ball. I am going to take credit actually because I made you. So it's just experimenting and getting fun with it and not seeing things quite so literally. So we're coming into our dining room here, where a staple of the room is this dining room table, which was an old refectory table from a college. And I love it because it already had so much warmth and patina, and it doesn't matter if you get a watering on it. It doesn't matter if the kids draw on it and get a little paint on it. It just keeps incorporating more character into the piece. We totally changed the kitchen layout, the flow. It was closed off. It had walls and 2 doors that you needed to walk into it, instead of how now it's an open kind of donut down here. It was walls that came to about here on either side, and then double French doors. But there was no flow. The flow stopped when you got to the kitchen. And the kitchen was already dated, so it was a perfect opportunity to take it and run with it. It's a small kitchen. It's basically a galley kitchen. It feels large because of the layout itself. And I wanted to have open shelving, but open shelving can be tricky as far as storage goes. With this, we built it all into the stove surround, and it has that little Parisian flair with the unlacquered brass. I think when it comes to working with color, you have to be really intentional about how you use it so it doesn't go overboard and feel like preschool and, color explosion. So it's nice to have these quiet moments, like the pale pink of the cabinetry. And then it kind of jazzes up a little bit with the art. I had already kind of amassed this collection of portraits that I really loved. And I started with a one-piece Papier right under the light. And he felt lonely there, and it didn't feel able to fill up the wall enough. So I started experimenting with different configurations. And it ended up being something incredibly fun about this space that's so linear. It gives it a little bit of this asymmetrical moment that I have come to love, and now he gets to hang out with all his buddies. If you're just buying things that you love and you just think are cool and you would love to have them in your home, the hardest part is making a cohesive design flow throughout your home. And in this case, what I did in order to let a lot of my pieces shine is to keep the walls white. And because of the open floor plan of the downstairs, that was an opportunity to highlight a lot of my pieces and not have it feel like too much when room to room needs to kind of, speak to each other. The way I use color in this house is by defining color on the ceilings. And then I come in with this texture and pattern, and it's a lot of editing in the end because sometimes I'm like, okay, there's one too many things happening in here. When I saw this ostrich, I was just like, what is that? And I need that immediately. So this is Beyonce, my ostrich. There was a couple times when we were trying to name her. I think my son wanted to name her Frank. I'm like, that just doesn't sound right. She needs the proper, queenly name. Beyonce. This mid-century record player is one of my favorite pieces. I picked it up at an estate sale for $150, and it was completely in working order. And now this room has just kind of become our lounge. Everybody picks their favorite records. Whenever we have a record playing, so everybody knows what we're listening to, we put it in Beyonce's mouth. She's like our DJ. Yeah, my kids hate those. Too bad. You think those are subtly terrifying? I think they're charming. So we decided to go with an Alfred Hitchcock theme in the bathroom, starting with the Psycho picture. When I saw that floor tile, it's so impactful and graphic. And in a small space like that with no windows, I really wanted something to just pop. And I just like it because it makes people giggle. Subtly terrifying. Okay, stay. Go, boy. Stay. Stay. So coming into this space, this is an adults-only chill zone. I was looking for something to cover these 2 closets as they were such a focal point. There's not much you can do. Even if you wallpaper, you're still dealing with the closet situation. So I wanted to think of something that was more unique. And I found a graffiti artist here. He was also a graphic artist, but out of work at the time. And he came and he did this and we collaborated, and it was just really fun. And he's become a good friend of mine here as well. And we kind of sparked this space off by literally stamping it with our journey that represents Chicago to Charlotte. When you talk about things that influence you, part of that to me has been movies that are scary, like Alfred Hitchcock, or a little bit of that Beetlejuice vibe. There's something about her haunted look and all of her eggs that I just find really intriguing. Right through the sitting room, you come into our bedroom area. Anytime I mix patterns, I think the most important thing to think about is scale of the patterns. Not only the colors, but you can't have big pattern, big pattern, big pattern, otherwise it feels too much. So if you break it up with smaller patterns, black and white is a great way to ground a space, and then you can add a little bit more in without it becoming completely overwhelming. All right, so now we're going into my daughter Maddie's room. She's 10. She's got a pretty cool space in here, but we want to still keep it young and fun and vibrant with some fresh colors. Sometimes it sparks my creativity to get more hands-on. Maddie's bedroom has this fireplace and it's very, very pretty. And we have the room painted this very pale kind of mint color. And I went in one day with this idea to just paint some poppy flowers on there. And I didn't even think too hard about it. And I think sometimes for me, that was my biggest issue, is sit in front of a canvas and feel so much pressure to make something amazing. And I didn't feel that. I just wanted to bring joy into my daughter's room. I always think it's important for little girls to have good role models that are women. And I wanted her to feel surrounded by this like gaggle of empowering women, but they're also fun and they're quirky and they're colorful and they all have their own personalities, just like our kids do. She wanted a beach theme. I'm like, I'm not gonna put palm trees on your wall, but I'll definitely get you the shell chandelier that was on sale. This started out as a craft room until the pandemic went down. Now it's kind of multi-purpose office space. The kids did their schoolwork here. We still use it as a craft space. Obviously, with any good craft space, you have to have a beverage fridge. The ceiling color that we brought into this space is called Dynamic Blue. And it was inspired by my buddy here, the Marlin, who we picked up in an estate sale. My husband and I walked out like holding him on either side. It was like our big catch. Now he graces the wall and tries to not to impale people as they walk in the room, you know? It's just like pieces that have a story, and it's not just, I picked this up at West Elm. It's like, no, I met this family. This was their grandmother. It's just, you keep getting that history passed down and becomes part of your home's own story. In my head, when I moved into this house, I envisioned it looking like an art gallery. And it kind of has taken that on, but more in a, we also live here kind of way.
I often used to describe it as if the Munsters lived next to the Addams Family and Pee-wee's Playhouse near the ocean. Hi, I'm Adam Wallacavage, and this is my Wacky Jack house in Philadelphia. I grew up skateboarding. I was really into the ocean and fishing and spearfishing and diving. In the 80s, you would just see all these old Victorian houses that looked a lot like the Munsters house. My whole, I think, aesthetic is a mixture of the mid-century modern and Victorian. I bought this house in 2000, and it's about 3,000 square feet. It was very inexpensive back then. The house itself was kind of scary. It was converted to a doctor's office in the 1940s. So there was all these weird rooms and weird hallways, and it wasn't lived in, I don't think, for 7 years. And it smelled weird, and everything was this bologna pink color. I just lucked out. This is the only house I looked at. After I got the house, I mean, it was pretty creepy in here. And so I started tearing down the walls that were built in the 40s. And I wanted a very opulent interior because I wanted a place to shoot photos. When I bought the house, this was 2 rooms. This was a doctor's office waiting room, and there was a door, and this went into the doctor's actual office. And then there was a door that went into the examination room, which is where the kitchen is. The first thing I wanted to do when I got this place was tear these walls down and look for the pocket doors, and I found nothing. Miraculously, a week later, I found these doors at the flea market for $30. One thing I was very lucky about this house, that they kept the original fireplace, mantle, and the mirror. So I don't know anybody else on the block who has the original pieces. So I was really lucky about that. I was obsessed with the plaster moldings and all this, and this molding up here, the ceiling medallion, I got those pieces in Brighton, England. Just a couple pieces, and I brought them back and made molds. I got a cornbread tag. He's known as the originator of modern day graffiti. Super random people you would never think know. They're like, "Do you have a cornbread tag?" Because he was very famous in the 70s. I've always felt like I was an artist. I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters, and that's just what we did. We just drew and painted and made stuff. I knew I wanted to go to art school, but I really felt art school was a big waste of money, so I didn't even want to admit that to my father. My dad was in the military, so I joined the Navy. I was a Navy Seabee, which is the construction battalions of the Navy. I went to the local community college, Delaware County Community College, and I basically took all the art classes. So I had a great education there. So I was doing that, and then I was also working at a 1-hour photo lab and getting really, really into skateboarding and photography. This is my kitchen. When I was working on it, I didn't really have any plan. Everything was basically primered white before I realized which direction I was gonna go. And I had these circus-themed mid-century modern glasses, and I was like, oh, I'll do like a circus-themed sort of thing maybe. So I started painting stripes and just using pastel fun colors. There was a bathroom in the kitchen because this used to be an examination room. And then the inside of this is a collection of masks. And then over the years, all different artists, musicians who visited have signed the inside of the store. This is a bat lamp I made with my friend PJ Linden. I mean, I have some taxidermy in the house, but I kind of prefer fake taxidermy. This is from Bambi Cleaners, which is a Philadelphia landmark. And these were thrown in the trash. The handles for the drawers. I got these 3 in Paris flea market in their casket handles. I often think of the house as a sketchbook, whereas I'm learning. I have a lot of stuff. I have a lot of neat things, but I don't want to feel, I want the attachment to be what I learned from it. And because so much of it is about the journey of learning where to find things and the resources. So, because when I first got this place, I didn't have any money. So I had to basically do everything on my own, which was great because that's how I started learning. I had friends help, but I did almost everything by myself. Later now, I have great resources, mainly skateboarders who are extremely skilled in everything. Woodworking and concrete. Those are the guys who rebuilt my backyard, rebuilt built the greenhouse. This was originally a dining room when I bought the house, but there was a doorway over here and this creepy hallway that went around the examination room, which was for the doctor. And this was a sealed wall. But I chopped out everything and rebuilt everything and made this room, which ended up being what changed my career from photography to making novelty chandeliers. I wanted to do like a 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Jules Verne style, but also Ernst Haeckel. That was a big inspiration to me, was Ernst Haeckel's book, Art Forms in Nature, elements of sea life and whatnot, and nature and ornamental design. I was like, that's what I want. And so I started sculpting octopus arms, and it took a long time because I didn't know how to sculpt very well. But I did 2 arms that I sculpted, and then I made molds of those, and then I started casting them out of plaster. These are the very first pieces that I made with the chandeliers. And so I started making them for this room that I'm sitting in right now. And that was around 2001. And after I finished them, they were so much fun to make that it just didn't stop. So this is called the Jules Verne room, octopus room. But this is my first real experiment in playing around with ornamental plaster techniques. And it was very simple, just finding, well, this is a piece of picture framing that my friend had. I got a couple pieces of that, made some rubber molds of those. And it was just a matter of gluing and sticking them to the wall, and just kept going with it. The crown molding, that was something I was really obsessed with. I don't know, I was very ambitious back then. It was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun. That's what I would basically do every night, just work on this room. But it came out just right. I like it a lot. Then even the mirrors, I didn't have enough money to buy a full-length mirror. I would just go to thrift shops and buy whatever mirrors I could find and then cut them. So there's all these seams, but it kind of looks more authentic. I wasn't afraid. I just kind of went for it without really hesitating. And it's the imperfections that kind of bring out the grace, actually, and the uniqueness and the fun of it. I think modern stuff is actually a lot more difficult because you have to be perfect. This, you could be really sloppy. So that was very encouraging. These portholes are one of the reasons that I bought the house, because when I called the realtor, he said, oh, it has a sort of classic interior, but the basement looks like a ship. And I was like, I think that's my house. Now let me show you the backyard now. This is my tiny South Philly backyard. The realtor didn't even let me look out the back. He said he lost the key. And I didn't care because I wanted this place so bad that when I finally did get the house and went out in the back, I saw why he didn't want me to see it. Is the old built-on kitchen was all rotted out. And the thing about having a small backyard, I always wanted things to be like go vertical. The skateboarders from FDR Skate Park made these forms with the metal from the old vert ramp that was down there. So these will all be covered in mosaics, just like everything else by Jody Rice. When you come out here, you don't know you're in the city. Then this is my bedroom here. This was a gas chandelier, but it was converted to electric. This was made in Philadelphia, and it has Philadelphia on the keys. These are the types of things I like to have as part of Philadelphia history. And this is a Gothic, I think Masonic bishop's chair. And then this is one of the bat lamps I made. And these curtains are this beautiful burnt velvet, which I got from the Kevin O'Brien studio, which is literally like 5 blocks up the street. I like how I live on one of the busiest streets in the city, but with the plants and the tree, you don't even know it. So this is the Trumbauer room. Originally this room was a music room when I bought the house. I made this my photo studio. I took a lot of this stuff out. I always had plans to do something completely over the top with this room. I got a phone call from my friend Bob Beatty, who has a salvage company. And he said, I want you to see this mansion. He's like, I'm doing the demo on it. I'm like, awesome. The mansion was designed by Horace Trumbauer. Trumbauer was one of the main architects of the Gilded Age. And so this came from a Beaux Arts mansion. And I was able to get one of the rooms and buy the wood out of it. More skateboarders, they meticulously rebuilt it into this room. This room is beyond anything I could ever imagine having when I first bought this house. But my favorite is looking this direction into the greenhouse. So this is the greenhouse, and it's one of my favorite places in the house because it really makes the winter go by fast. When I first got the house, this was just a bay window. 2010 is when I had a deck built outside of it, and I had these French doors put in. I never really used the porch because it's just too miserable out here in the summer. Hired an architect, and we did it properly, and it came out really nice. I made all these pieces all around flat. I laid the pieces into mastic, tile adhesive, and then I resined everything over. So it's completely waterproof, so I could spray this room down. This is one of my favorite things. This is a reproduction Fisk Victorian aquarium. I got 4 little black angelfish, not realizing how goth that actually was. So this is my 3rd floor hallway going to my studio. This piece here actually is pretty remarkable. I got this in a Pook and Pook auction, and when I went to go pick it up, it was on the wall, and I didn't know until I got it that it did this. So I was just like, oh my God. So I paid for it and I like ran home with it. Like I stole it because I just couldn't believe how cool the thing was. This is called the Goo Goo Muck. And I made this for my friend Jimmy Webb for his store in New York City called I Need More, which was a punk rock boutique. And I got this back after he passed away a few years ago. I designed these skateboard decks in 1999 for Toy Machine skateboards. And it was my friend Bam Margera was on it at the time, and Mike Maldonado and Carrie Getz. I'm not super into Halloween. I just kind of like weird looking stuff. But this is part of a Halloween thing I had out front. So I don't, I mean, it looks like I'm all into Halloween, but I like this stuff because it's funny looking. The very first night I stayed here, I was by myself. And that was weird because I guess I had sleep paralysis, and I heard the door open downstairs with there was a Venetian, like a metal Venetian blind on it, and I heard it. And the window was open, and I heard something jump in the window and jump on my chest. And I just lay there thinking, like, wait, no, I was dreaming this. And like, there's nothing here. And this house has always been very peaceful. If there are spirits here, they like me. So this is my studio. This room was originally the first bedroom I had. When I bought the place, I just stayed up here because the downstairs was pretty creepy. So when I moved downstairs bedroom and did more of the house, this was my photo archive room. Once I started making the chandelier, I switched over to just making everything in here. And then 4 years ago, I realized I really had to rebuild the whole place, make it easier for making this stuff. So I took everything out, cleaned everything out, painted it all goofy, and I kind of know where things are, even though it looks a little chaotic. I surround myself with things that kind of inspire me, like the antique stuff. One of the main things about making lamps and kind of being a craftsperson is you have to have a lot of spaces and to put stuff. It's always the biggest challenge, and I have stuff all over the place. This is pretty much where everything's made and then gets shipped around the country and sometimes around the world, and it just comes from this little table. I want people to be inspired like I was inspired, in the sense that, well, I wanted things I couldn't afford or didn't exist, and I realized I can make them. That's pretty cool. But I want to encourage people to do things for themselves and make their own things, because it's really fun. Have fun with what you're doing, and don't worry about screwing up or not being perfect, because that takes the fun out of it.
It's funky because when people walk in here, they think California for some reason. I believe that has something to do with the transoms and the airiness that's in here. However, it has kind of nuances of all different architectural styles. It has an interesting floor plan with the lifted kitchen and the open windows and the sunroom. It's got a funky vibe, but I can't really peg what it is. Hi, I'm Paige Goss, and this is my handmade home in New Orleans, Louisiana. I chose this house because of its character. It is 200 years old, and I believe it was renovated around 30 plus years ago. It was originally a double converted into a single, and so I had a lot of fun, a lot of work to put into it, but the bones were so good. The space, before I renovated it, I would say it had a lot of TLC that it needed. It had popcorn ceilings, it had, the woman who owned it before had a lot of cats. There were cat runners, the floors needed sealing and treating, new windows. It had a lot of work to be done, but I had a blast doing that. When I first purchased this house, I was doing art curation and working as an artist. So I've done art shows in Dallas and New York and kind of all over, and then curated artwork for these hospitals like University Medical Center and Children's Hospital. That was cool because it was full circle, because I was able to purchase local artwork like myself, kind of paying it forward. So here's where I spend most of my time. I would say this is the living room. It's definitely a mix of the old and the new. Also showcasing a lot of the artwork that I've collected over the years. 40% of the artwork in here is mine. However, from that curation job that I did, I accumulated so much local artwork, so you'll just see throughout. It's kind of like a gallery of sorts. Decorating the bookcase was really a fun challenge for me. I thought it would be fun to kind of add all of the things I've just accumulated over the years. Vintage bookends, seashells that I've got, I got that in Turks and Caicos. This is my grandma's, to this baseball up here. I was actually at a Rangers game in Texas, and a foul ball hit me, so I decided to keep it. I was not injured, I got a ball. And then yeah, showcasing a lot of my favorite books and designers like Tom Ford, Ashley Longshore, a local artist here. These are from The Estately, which is this lovely chick that runs this Instagram site where she goes to estate sales and accumulates all this furniture, then resells it. So I got these and then I reupholstered them. Yeah, and again, modern, so the couch is newer. I think that was from Article. And then the little side tables, those are mid-century, where I found from Merchant House as well. These little side tables are from a local woodworker. They're really cute, and it's actually seated for your butt, if you see here. Or a side table. I had seen at some point someone's home where they had black trim everywhere and white walls. So I knew I kind of wanted to go off that. So I did the entire house black trim with white walls. However, some rooms you'll see some color. So one of the latest additions I have added to the house would be this accent wall. I had it painted using lime wash from this company Atelier, based out in San Francisco. It's really cool because it's all mineral based, so it's very natural, non-toxic, and it gives this kind of ethereal, serene, almost like stucco plaster vibe. And so I had my painter apply it, and there's a whole technique how you have to apply it, and that's using like an X-shaped stroke as you do it. But I think it came out really great, and it's a nice addition to add a little different texture and surface to the space. When I bought this house during the pandemic about 4 years ago, I came into it blind, having no knowledge or background in interior design, and just had a ball. And I think that was the best way to approach it, with no like inhibitions or previous ideas of like how you should design a house. I just kind of did it free reign and had a blast, fell in love with it. So it took me a couple of years, but now 2 years running, I have my own design firm thanks to this house. Well, something I've learned and loved about design is that there are no rules. And as a painter myself, I've always kind of used every color under the sun. And I've kind of relayed that over here in the house, and everything is kind of like mismatched, different colors, but it works. So the tiles are an interesting add-on that I put in, which I love. It's nice to have the black and white graphics next to the wood, and then I framed it out with the black. And then here I have these cool, I believe they were once spools. I got them in St. Francisville at an antique shop, and I threw some candles on them. And then this is another painting of mine. Of all the artwork that is mine, my favorite would have to be the piece in the dining room. This painting is very special to me because it was actually the first piece I've ever shown in an art show. It was my very first art show. I did a collaboration with several other artists, but in this case, I collabed with children, and I asked them a few questions, their hopes, fears, and dreams. So I collaged their responses. Surprisingly, these kids were scared of zombies. There's a lot of zombies in this collage, and sharks, and pools, and what other things do they love? All kinds of things. So I kind of took those and painted around it. So people often ask me, they're like, oh, did you buy this in mind for this house, or was there some kind of reasoning for the pieces that I purchased? And really, no. I just see something, I like it, I know it'll work somewhere. These are my pride and joy. Got these in New York. And then these I'm obsessed with too. They're by Paul McCobb, and I got them in an estate sale in Miami. And then this is a Cyrenan table, a tulip table, famous from back in the day. Got this at Renaissance Interiors, one of my favorite go-tos locally. This as well, my china cabinet from Renaissance. And then I kind of have a collection of my granny's stuff and thrifting, all kinds of finds. So one of the things that really appealed to me about this house was this bizarre lifted kitchen. It's so different, I've never seen anything like it. I added the railing, put in some new tile, but I thought it was just different than a regular open concept floor plan. So come on. So here in the kitchen, I did a lot of work to it. I chose the tile work, especially on the floors. I always have dreamt of just having black and white tile. So I started there, and then I was like, would it be interesting to kind of continue it, but in a different shape and form up there? And so, yeah, again, I didn't hold back. I didn't know what I was doing, just try it out. And then I opened up the cabinetry here and did all open shelves to show off all of my fun vintage glassware. It's not just for looking, it's for using. This one in particular is for my granny. These are from the famous Antoine's restaurant here in New Orleans. This is a beautiful table from Merchant House, another local shop that I frequent a little too much. And then it has these cute little drawers too. And then also got these from Merchant House too. I don't do a lot of cooking, but I hang out here. My approach to scale is, I pretty much find a wall, I'm gonna adorn it with everything. So, and I have so much stuff, so I just keep accumulating, and I don't think there's much white space left in this house. But yeah, I go all the way up to the ceiling. It's head to toe artwork and things. Now here we have the guest bathroom. It's a clawfoot tub, and I kept it as is, however I painted the base of it black. And then I added new hardware, these new sconces. New as in I newly added them to the house, but they're very much old. I got them in Provence last summer and packed them back with me in my suitcase. Definitely made the suitcase a little overweight. But then I did all the work where I had to work with a metalsmith to do the back plate and then rewire them. So it was a lot of work that went into it, but it makes it all the more rewarding that they're up there. So they're really sentimental and special to me. And then this whole wall, which we have the gallery wall. The gallery wall here can be quite of a challenge for me and for anyone. It's hard to know what to put where and make sense. However, in my case, I know I always start from the middle and then I work my way out. And then this piece is really interesting. It's a local artist. She's actually based out of Baton Rouge, and this piece is on a piece of tar. So the reason it's bowing like that is because of the tar. So I kind of want to leave it like so. And all the black in the painting is actually just the exposed tar. So that's a real special piece to look at. So now we're in the bedroom. These pillows are really neat because they're vintage neckties. Some fixtures, little sconces on the side. This is a painting done by my very dear friend, which I'm holding on to until she sells it. Maybe I should just buy it. And then another piece of mine over in the corner. And then the credenza under the TV is a really good score from an ex-boyfriend. And I love it to bits. And then on top of it, I have a little Mexican piece of tapestry from Oaxaca. My favorite room in all of the house, this one, we're sitting in it. Welcome to the Bellini room. I really was inspired by a trip I took in Venice, Italy. So I ended up going to Hotel Cipriani, which originated the Bellini cocktail. So there I am with my best friend, and we are mashing up peaches, we're adding champagne, and we learn the story of how this artist decided that the Bellini color was this peach, it was gonna be called Bellini. And I was like, told my friend, I go, one day, whenever I own a home, I'm gonna have a room that is fully peach Bellini colored. And I believe it's Benjamin Moore Rosebud. And I decided to have it lacquered. I wouldn't say semi-gloss, it was definitely a gloss, high gloss even, throughout the whole room, and I wanted it head to toe, which they call a full dip. So this room is a full dip of peach Bellini. And now I have my Bellini room. Now I just need a Bellini. This fixture that I have here in the Bellini room is one of my favorites, and it's a really new addition. It's Brutalist. I found it on Cherish, and it was vintage, and it came to me and it was completely not wired. I don't know why I didn't look that up, but it's not wired. So that became its own project in itself, calling every shop around New Orleans, trying to find an electrician who could actually rewire it to American, and also had to get a welder and a metal guy who got involved. So needless to say, my $150 chandelier on Cherish became, I'd say we're looking at 4 figures now. But it's fabulous, and I'm so glad it's in the space now, because this is really what makes this room complete, in my opinion. I found this bar at this vintage rattan 1970s bar that I had delivered only a few months ago, and I was sitting with it and I was like, it's just too tiki. I need to elevate it somehow. So I decided to get with my metalsmith, and we came over here, we did a tracing, and he ended up cutting a piece of brass to fit the space perfectly. It's all nailed in, ready to go. And then I have all the glassware. I like to keep most of the glassware to be in the peach Bellini themed color. And last but not least, I love me some Bravo. And this is a little shout out to my sister-in-law, Lacey. She got me this for one of my birthdays. Andy Cohen, Clubhouse, shot ski. So if you know, you know. Cheers. My signature style has always been vintage mixed with modern. So I am as eclectic as it gets, and that is exactly what my home is. I mix textures, I'm layering, I'm adding color, I'm glossing floors, I'm doing whatever. It's kind of the same. And it kind of comes together much like fashion to me. It's all putting together an ensemble, if you will. Thanks for stopping by. See y'all later.
I've always told my kids, it is all in the details. Everything you do, take it one step further, and it makes it even better, and it becomes the unexpected.
Hi, I'm Grant.
And I'm Joannie.
And this is our handmade schoolhouse in Knoxville, Tennessee.
I'm from South Knoxville.
I was born in Oak Ridge, but been in Knoxville basically my whole life.
We dated off and on all through high school, and then when we went to the university, we decided, yeah, this is it. So we've been married for, I have to think, is it 41 years?
Yeah, I know. We've been together 45 years, at whatever capacity. When we first got married, we lived not far from here, and for some reason one day we saw somebody up here and we just stopped in and said, would you all sell the place?
She said, oh, my dad will sell anything.
It was totally dilapidated. Every window was busted, roof falling in. Everything was just full of trash.
This originally was the Klondike School building. The neighbors have been so cool because they went to school here and they would tell stories of the window that they broke when they were playing ball or where they got their first kiss.
We've had a couple of graduating classes that have called and said, can we have a reunion there? And so we pretty much opened it up when people wanted to look around, as long as they look legit.
When people walk through the door, usually it's a wow.
We'll have people come in and sometimes we barely know them, so yeah, just walk around.
And they'll just look, and then the questions start.
This is our living space. This was part of the original 2-room 1910 schoolhouse. Some years back we added an elevated platform just for living space, just to separate the room, give some interest. So we added this fireplace some 25 years ago just because that is our main living space and we enjoy fires so much.
We truly live in this space. We watch a lot of television, a lot of movies, we play cards, we play board games. When the kids come over, this is where we hang out. We spent a lot of time during COVID creating the dollhouse that was our daughter's that never got finished.
It sat down in the basement for 30 years and we flirted with throwing it away, but we just couldn't. And when COVID hit, we needed, like everybody, something to do. So we said, well, let's renovate the dollhouse. And it really was fun because as an architect and a teacher, we didn't want to go buy dollhouse pieces. So we either made or transformed things.
Right.
And probably one of the neatest things was Joannie came up with it, a lid on coffee creamer. When you take it off and set it down, it's got a lid that pops up and it looks like a commode. So that's the commode in the dollhouse. So those were the types of things that we just spent hours trying to do and look for while we were locked up for 2 years.
Travel has really influenced us with our colors and different things we want to incorporate into our living space. We have modern, we have boho, we have a lot of African things. We have our camel collection inspired by our camel trek in Morocco. I believe that a collection of things needs to live together to make it look like a collection. I've always loved globes. Maybe it's from my teaching years, but always on the lookout for a new globe to add to the collection.
We just wanted this to be a big, open, inviting space. So we actually just flowed this into what is the kitchen and dining area. We have an existing wall we took out to bring light in and to make this even more open and inviting for where we live and spend most all of our time.
I have really treated the hallway like a hallway in a school. When we travel, we take a lot of pictures, and I was looking for a way to display those a little differently. And so that's all the time changing.
And our kids would rollerblade, roller skate, tricycle, bicycle, up and down the halls. It's always been a play space, if you will.
The floors are kind of rough. There are dog scratches where they've stopped, and I wouldn't take those out for anything. This is our Hilton. It is misspelled on purpose. Come on in, I'll show you around. We love to visit New York City, and we kind of wanted to have that vibe but yet work in here, so we created our faux New York City skyline out of wood. The Hilton, because it is surrounded by hills that are gorgeous out here, and there's not as much color in here because we didn't want to overwhelm our guests. But that really started out as our nursery, and it became Owen's nursery, then Owen's bedroom, and then it became Wallace's nursery and Wallace's bedroom. And they were not very happy when we changed it over.
The day after they left.
Yeah. They're gone. Let's fix it up.
Throw it out.
I taught in a school for years that was a happy environment, and things were everywhere. There were always colorful pieces of art and works of the kids, and so I just thought, well, we need to do it that way here. So we have lots of pictures from places that we have traveled, and one of the things that I really like is my book tree that I had seen on Pinterest, and we went to an estate sale, and they had tons of books. They were not really books that you would want to read, so I thought these would be perfect to give them another life. It stays up all the time, but we have lights on it at Christmas, and we'll put hearts on it at Valentine's Day and birds on it during the spring and summer, and it's just been a really fun addition. And besides, every school has to have a lot of books.
Now we can go into the principal's office.
Olive, come here. Crazy girl.
This is the bedroom, and we wanted a loft type feel. We built a platform up for the bed just so that we could have a little variety in here and have a little interest.
The clock is one of my favorite things in here because Grant has always said, if you're 5 minutes early, you're late. So I found this clock, and I wanted it for his office, and it didn't fit. But that's okay, because we ended up putting it in here, and I think it's perfect in here. It does work, but it's loud.
It came out of an abandoned mall down in Florida.
Down in Florida,
somehow made its way up to Knoxville.
If we ever have a fire or anything ever happens, our books back behind me here are the one thing that you're supposed to grab. We've been writing books together for years. We are on book number 22, I think, now. You'd love to get them out and read them, see some of the crazy things that went on. Unfortunately, we didn't do it when we were renovating. It was kind of the beginning of our modern phase we went through, and now we're probably adding more to it to make it more of the boho feel that we seem to be comfortable with. Our bed is on rollers, which has been kind of cool. When it snows, we like to turn the bed around and watch the snowflakes come around. Now I want to take you to my favorite room in the house. It's my closet. It's odd to say that a closet's your favorite in your house, but this is really one of my favorites. Totally me. Way too many clothes. So I had all my clothes on the white clothes hangers, and I thought, those just don't really work. And Mom's was all the time looking for something to do. So I ripped the fabrics up into pieces, and I showed her, and we worked on them, how I wanted them wrapped around the coat hangers, and then we would take yarn and go over top of that. My mother did about 200 of those. Every piece of clothing in my closet is one that my mom and her caretaker helped to cover with me, and they are priceless to me. Also, one of my favorite things in here is my pair of lips that Grant and I made from the barnwood on the barn next to us. I went down to my neighbor one day and I asked him what he was going to do with this barnwood. And he said, I don't know, do you want some? And it was like, yes, sure, I want some. He said, what are you going to do with it? And I said, would you please just trust me and let me show you when it's finished? And so we had them hung up, and I went to get him one day, and I said, here's your barnwood. And he was like, I never would have thought that's what you were going to do. But he was so proud of the lips. I'm always interested in what they seem to go through first. And there's really nothing that everyone seems to go to other than the bus. They like the bus. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of bus owners in the neighborhood, so I hopped in the car with the neighbor. We went down to the bus guy, and I told him what I was wanting. He said, you don't care if it has an engine? No, I don't want an engine in it. And he said, well, yeah, if you want one. We got back in the car, and the neighbor went, what the hell just happened? I said, I just bought a bus. It has a reading area. We have a table and 2 of the original seats that we play cards. People hang out in it and parties. It's great in the rain. It's just kind of cool.
The bus doesn't have an engine intentionally, and when you lift the grill up, the front grill up off of the bus, we pull our grill out to grill. So that was,
Yeah.
We've enjoyed that. A lot of people do like that because
Yeah.
it's just pretty unique.
If you come to our house, you have to sign our bus. And we have had a lot of signatures. The bus has only been out there for about 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, something like that.
And it already has a lot of signatures that are special.
This place is our lives. I mean, we've been here 40 years, and you know, again, just because we did the work ourselves, we never
Yeah.
could let go. So
No, it does mean everything.
yeah.
Hi, I'm Barry, and this is Jordan.
We're the Brownstone Boys
This is our handmade home.
in Brooklyn, New York.
So we started Brownstone Boys when we started our renovation. Jordan had the awesome idea to start blogging about it. We thought it would be something our family and friends would read, and that's pretty much it. But a lot of people read it and comment on it, and we have a lot of followers now. So it's been fun to share our story.
When we started renovation, we had so many questions about how to renovate, and we just weren't finding the right sources. So we were like, let's blog throughout our whole entire journey. And we found it was very helpful for other people in the process that we were going through. So we were looking for about 7 months for a place. We were looking all throughout Brooklyn. We knew that we wanted a brownstone. It was both of our dreams to have one.
So a brownstone is basically a row house. So they touch another house on the side. And what actually makes it a brownstone is the facade. There is brick behind the actual facade that you see, so it's a masonry building, but the actual facade is made of something called brownstone.
We spent about 7 months renovating the place.
It was a little bit of a mess too. It was chopped up into a bunch, I think it was a 5-bedroom place. They put a bedroom everywhere they could find like a corner. It was a lot of paint slopped on the woodwork, and we had it all stripped. And it literally looked like someone was murdered in the place. There was stuff splattered on the wall, there was running on the
was a crime
floors,
scene.
it was a total crime scene.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't, you want to get it done when everything else is a mess too.
And originally we were going to strip the wood just for us to repaint it, go back to a white color, but we stripped it and it looks so beautiful and so natural in the space that we were like, we have to keep this.
We wanted to preserve as much as we could. So things like the traditional layout with the stairs having their own hallway with the wall that's traditionally there. So the entryway is one of our favorite spaces because you really know you're in a brownstone when you walk into it. It's the traditional, stairway that goes up with the original banister and that sort of thing. And this is where you can really see that original woodwork that we stripped. This door was covered in paint. It was a very sloppy job, and then
Every
they
color
painted
of the
over.
rainbow was on this door.
It was a bright blue. It was a pink at one time, and it was just like sloppy and dripping down. And it just came out amazing. They stripped all the paint off it, including the original hardware.
When you walk into the place, the first thing you see is this banister. When we purchased the place, it was covered layers and layers and layers of white paint. So when we stripped it, this beautiful oak wood was exposed, and we knew we wanted to save it. There was a couple pieces missing, so we went ahead and replicated the molding here on the banister, and now it's definitely the showpiece in the house.
And it's really cool because you couldn't even see this detail that was in it when it was covered in paint. So when they stripped it, we were like, wow, that's amazing. Like, who knew that was under there?
The kitchen is definitely something that people gravitate towards. They come in, and then next thing you know, they're just hanging out on the stools in front of our kitchen island. It's just
We really wanted that showstopper kitchen. So we wanted it to be very open. So we had to tear down a couple of walls to make this happen. So there was a structural wall here. We had to put this header, this beam up. There was another bedroom right next to it that we had to tear out too. So really created the open, airy, very bright feeling that we wanted to have here.
We knew we wanted an island in the middle of the space, so we went ahead with a waterfall quartz counter. My dream was always to have a farm-style sink, so we went with this apron front sink. Behind here we have a beautiful herringbone tile.
We wanted to do white. It's
Yes,
my fault.
I
Jordan
know.
wanted something bright there, but
These are Barry's colors, by the way. The white, the charcoal.
gray.
I like more color than Barry likes.
Yeah.
I like things bright, colorful. Barry likes the same three colors. He loves a good charcoal
I'm like, what about gray?
So you'll
How
see
about
that
light
everywhere.
gray, dark gray?
Yeah.
We wanted there to be at least one small natural wood feature. So although all the cabinets are gray and these shelves are gray, we did this one oak shelf just to sort of echo a lot of the woodwork that's in the place and bring it into the kitchen, warm it up a little bit.
When we got the cabinets, we got this one and it had the fronts on it, but we were like, you know what, for design purposes, let's go ahead and turn it on its side. We took off the fronts and then we just kind of left it as an exposed shelf, and we think it looks really great here.
We actually built these pendants ourselves from scratch. We were looking for pendants, and the ones that we liked were thousands of dollars. It was like every one that we saw, like, this one looks great. Oh, it's $2,000 each. And then the ones that were in our price range for $200 or $300 were just very generic. They were just very basic. So we decided to make them ourselves. So we actually got all of the components. We wired them ourselves. You've never done that before. So we watched a YouTube video to figure it out and completely wired them, put them together, installed them, and we haven't burned the place down yet. So we're
Fingers crossed. So when we purchased this place, they had the kitchen right here in the middle of the space. It's kind of awkward, obviously we weren't going to do that, but because of that, when we demolished the area, the molding was affected. This place has that beautiful ornate molding from 1890, and we knew we were going to go ahead and replicate that. So we replicated all this molding to fit the original. And now this is our beautiful living room area.
So one of our favorite light fixtures in the place is this one right here. It is called a stick bulb, and it is really cool because it is made here in New York City from reclaimed material. And so this one specifically, they get the wood from water towers in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
But we thought it was a way to pay homage to Brooklyn a little bit in our place, and we love it. It fits really well over the table, looks amazing. So we are here in the master bedroom, and this is, we wanted this to be very calming, kind of like sanctuary for us. So it's in the back of the building. It's kind of like a tree house outside, lots of tree branches in the summer. So a couple of things that we did here was, it's a common problem in these Brooklyn brownstones to have the old fireplace bump out that like sticks out of the wall, and it's usually in the way for furniture placement. So we just extended it so that it centered it in the room and sort of made a backdrop for the bed. And we painted it this color, which is Night Moon from Claire Paint. I think it turned out really well. And we also had to fix the moldings here. So just to make it look like it belongs here, these are plaster moldings in this room. So it was a project to restore these moldings as well.
Another favorite thing in the master is these shelves over here. We actually took a tabletop that was sitting in our basement. We cut it to the right size, we stained the wood, and we used that wood to create these beautiful open shelves.
It is something we're pretty proud of. I'm originally from New Orleans, and so I have my reminder of home with a vintage map of New Orleans here. And then I love nautical stuff, and so this is a nautical map of New York Harbor. So just made sense for us, my old home and my...
I'm originally from Las Vegas, where there is no history, so unfortunately I don't have a vintage map of Vegas in here. So welcome to the brightest room in the house. This is our guest bedroom. This mural that you're seeing behind me is an original. A good friend and old colleague of mine, Lauren Kalin, a muralist, painted this from scratch. We just told her that we kind of wanted something vintage and botanical, and she created this big showpiece in the place now. We love it.
What I thought was like the coolest part of the process is after she painted the entire mural, she went over the entire thing to give it this sort of like vintagey look and feel with wood stain.
Wood stain.
But look, it was actually a last minute decision. Like she wasn't even planning on doing that. She painted it, and it looked great, and then she's like, do you have any wood stain? I was like, why? What are we staining? Where's the wood? And it looks like, I was a little skeptical at first when she said wood stain, but I can't imagine it any other way. It looks awesome.
To tie it in, we added some other botanical posters. We added the skylight with our renovation.
All right, so welcome to our pride and joy of this renovation. We built this bathroom from scratch. It was a little weird bedroom. You couldn't even fit a bed in here. It was kind of useless space. And so we thought it was a perfect size for a bathroom. And since it was a totally new space that didn't exist before, we really wanted it to have a little bit of a vintage feel and feel like it has been here for a while. So we went with very classic, like hex floorette on the floor, classic subway tile on
Very
the wall.
New York. Yeah.
It's very New York. You see this tile everywhere in New York. So it is very classic. And we have, of course, the original woodwork and the shutters. Nice clawfoot tub. This is actually a new clawfoot tub, and we got a new one just because they're way lighter, even though it is cast iron. It's like a fraction of what the original ones were. And then one thing that we really love, as you saw, is this vintage door that we put in. We got this from a salvage yard, and they fit it to the space. And
yeah, we cut the space for the glass here. We found this chicken wire glass. We installed it, and then of course we just wanted to make it as vintage as possible, so we turned it into good old WC. I feel like no home is really finished, so we're looking forward to all those small.
Yeah, there's a few little things we have left. It's always going to be 98% finished.